Alright guys, we're going to have a lot of fun with this one today. We're going to be doing a little bit of stamping and a little bit of riveting and then a little bit of jewelry making, but all of these things are going to be real simple, real introductory things. I'm going to start out talking a little bit about the tools. You've got your basic bench block. This is a steel hardened bench block and mine it has a rubber base that helps absorb the noise. This isn't absolutely essential, but I do like it for it to be a little bit quieter. I've got my stamping hammer. This is a 1-pound hammer. It's a brass hammer. You can use the hammer out of your toolbox if you want to get started, but I will say you get a lot more control with the short handle. So if you're really getting into stamping, that's something that you're going to want to invest in at least over the long term. I'm using design stamps today. I'm using 2 different sizes of flowers. This is Impress Art's Whimsy flower. That's a 3mm and a 6mm size. That's just going to give us some texture today. And what's nice about using the design stamps is that if you're not real confident with getting your stamping even and spaced out really well, by doing an all over pattern, this helps you get started, helps you kind of get a feel for it, helps you get the feel for your hammer without having to worry about it looking perfect, because we're going to do an all over pattern. Now I am using pewter today, and pewter is a really nice beginner's metal because it's nice and soft. It's going to take an impression really well. And especially on the larger stamps. The design stamps can be a little bit tricky to get a good clean impression when you first get started, so using pewter is a good way to get started. I do have just some little extras, some little rivetable extra flowers here. I use eyelets. I like eyelets. Some people like actual traditional rivets, but the process is going to be real close to the same, and I'm going to show you how to set those once we get to the end here. We've also got a little hole punch. You're going to want a 3 30-second hole punch for this project today, and then a little bit of jewelry making, and we'll go over that at the end. So that's the quick overview, and now we're just going to get started. One thing I didn't show you, was my tape. You don't have to use anything fancy when you're doing just this all over pattern. I'm just using washi tape. There is stamp straight tape that helps a lot for if you're actually trying to stamp straight, but we're just going to be doing just a real random all over the place pattern here, and you want to make sure you get close to the edges and overlap it over the edges, because the edges are what's going to show once we set our flower. Alright, and I just did a little bit of everything. Turn it your way here. A little bit of everything with the big flower, and now I'm going to fill in with the small flower. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. I am going to pop it out though and make sure I get up here near the hole as well. Oops. Helps if I have it right way up. Hearing my kids upstairs, that's distracting me. I don't know if you ever have that crafting with kids. I've got my husband watching them right now, and I've got enjoying some craft time. Alright, now you can use a couple of different things. I'm using a Sharpie today. You can easily use acrylic paint. That's especially for these all over patterns, it works real well too. But you just darken these impressions, and if you were painting, you would just lightly paint over top. Just kind of sponge it on. If you can find some paint markers, those are really great too. I don't happen to have one on hand. But you want to darken these impressions up. Alright, should be good. And use your polishing pad to take the extra back off. Now you can use like the yellow cloths too. I think those take a little bit more elbow grease, honestly. So I think these little square polishing pads work a little bit faster. Be prepared to get messy. But what we're left with is the ink is just in the impressions. I don't know if you can tell what I've got here. I've got some impressions that didn't fill in all the way. That happens when you're not holding your stamp all the way exactly straight. Now, in our case, that doesn't matter because most of this is actually going to be covered up. So it's just the edge that we really care about here. Plus with the all over pattern, I mean, you can do whatever anyway. But that's one thing when you're just getting used to your design stamps. It's real easy to accidentally shift them one way or the other, and just getting a nice clean impression. It does take some practice. So this is a really, really good project to practice on because it doesn't have to be perfect and it won't show if it's not. So that's great. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to draw a little dot here in the center for where I want to punch my hole. And you want to use your 3/32 hole punch size. And just screw it down. Trying to line it up. Typically you'll be able to see through the bottom side, but I didn't bother to clean out my punch, so that was my bad. But anyway, once you got it secure, you just screw this down until it punches the hole all the way through. Now you want to stop before the threads get to your piece. Just unscrew that. You need to pop it off just slightly here. And you now have a hole right in the center. Alright, I want to try to zoom in here a little bit so you can take a look at how to set your eyelets. Got the hole punched in the center here. And what we're going to do is just set the eyelet right on top. You want to set your blank right on top of that. I'm going to layer on whatever you're going to rivet on. In my case, it's this little flower. And then the tool just fits right into the top of the eyelet, just that little groove. And the big key with setting eyelets or doing any riveting is to hold this as straight as possible. If you get it crooked at all, your eyelet can come out crooked as well. So I'm just going to give this a few taps, making sure I'm going straight here. Until what we're left with is this riveted piece. Alright, so moving along here, you're going to want to, here, show you here. If you're not real familiar with jewelry, which by the time you're stamping you probably are, but just in case not, you want to twist open your jump rings with your plier. Hook that through the hole. You want to hook on your earrings, your earring wire, and just close that up. And you're left with a pretty earring. You just got to repeat that for the second one.